So good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Sanjay Kumar Panda, and I am working as a assistant professor in the Department of CSE, NIT Warangal. And I joined in the last year in the month of December at NIT Warangal. Prior to that, I was the head of the department and assistant professor at Department of CSE, Triple IT DM Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh. So basically, I will take your grid and cloud computing subject. This subject is offered to, I think, fourth year computer science students. So this subject, the course code is CS 126, as mentioned, as given in your syllabus, and it is offered to the 7th semester student, that is fourth year first semester. And per week, I will take 3 hours lecture, right? If time permit, I will take more also. So, and there is no tutorial session. So we'll cover the tutorial part in lecture or the lecture only. And there is no practical session for this theory subject, but explicitly you have a practical session on cloud computing, but it is not included in the theory syllabus because many universities they are providing lecture as well as practical. So there is no practical. Practical is associated with this subject, but in this theory subject there is no practical. And whatever the experiments are there in with respect to the grid and cloud computing, that I will teach, that I will tell you, that I will give the instruction in the theory classes, so that after the end of these theory classes you can implement those algorithms. And the credit of this course is, it is a 3 credit course, and mark distribution is 30 marks maybe for internal and 70 marks for the end semester examination, and total mark is 100. And as I believe that you have covered these subjects in your BTech, that is first one is called cryptography and network security, and it is required for this particular subject to know the security aspect of grid and cloud computing. And there is another subject that is called computer networks, which is very highly essential, as you know that you are connecting one computer with another computer system. So in cloud also we'll see similar kind of things. That's why computer network, that is topology concept, let's say transmission mode concept, transmission medium concept, data rate, bit rate, whatever things are there, that is used in the this particular subject, that is grid and cloud computing. That's why prerequisites is computer networks. And also you require some prerequisites on operating system, that is like Windows is operating system, as you know that we are using in our desktop or laptop, Linux operating system, some other operating system, and how operating system manages many things, that is required. Some knowledge about operating system is also required. Those who are not comfortable with these 3 subjects also, it is okay. I will tell some of the highlight whenever these terms will come, whenever there is a prerequisite is required. At that time I'll tell you that few basic parts, so that even if you are not comfortable in these subjects, then also you will learn the cloud computing subject. So the main objective of this particular course is you will get a highlight of grid and cloud computing. Although I'll introduce what is grid and what is cloud computing later. So you will, I'll give a complete highlight what is grid, what is cloud, why there is a change which make the invention of cloud computing much more popular, why people are not happy with grid computing, why they invented cloud computing. So basically the comparison of grid and cloud computing also you will see in this course. Then also you will know the different models of distributed system. So there are 2 types of system we'll discuss later, that is called parallel system, another is called distributed system. More or less we are focusing on the distributed system because distributed system having more functionality, more behavior and more flexibility, and much popular. So we'll see various models associated with the distributed system, so that you will know where the distributed system has advantages, where we are getting disadvantage, and how, in what way we can improve a distributed system. And the third course objective is to see the design issues of cloud computing. If somebody want to move to cloud computing, what are the issues that person will face? Or if you start a startup company, right? In that startup company, you want to switch to cloud, right? Because you do not have manpower, you do not have sufficient money, okay, you don't have sufficient systems, and you do not have sufficient resources. So you will plan to move to cloud computing. So what are the design issues you are going to face, that we will discuss in this course. And also we'll see some of the workflow of service oriented architecture. It is very popular, that is called as SOA, that is service oriented architecture. We'll see workflow of service oriented architecture, and we'll compare that architecture with the traditional architecture, so that you can distinguish what is a traditional architecture and service oriented architecture. Analyze the different cloud computing resource management. Is you are the not only the person who are using cloud computing system, or a single organization is not using the cloud computing system. Many peoples and many organizations are using cloud computing system. So how the resources of the cloud is managed, or how the resources of the cloud is allotted to a particular organization, or a particular organization, or you can say a particular person, that we'll see in this lecture. So don't these terms may be new to you. Don't be confused with these terms: grid, cloud, distributed systems, service-oriented architecture, resource management. As the time progress, you will know that what is the proper meaning of this particular word, why this context is used in this course objective. Next, if you go through this particular course, then at the end of this course, you are able to get these course outcomes. And after the end of this course, you will get you will know that various service delivery models of a cloud computing architecture. So, what are the services provided by cloud? Is you will know that after the end of this course. And you will also know the design issues of the cloud computing platform, so that if you are interested, if you want to make your career in cloud computing in a particular industry, so that you will get at least a highlight about what are the design issues you will face whenever you move to a traditional system to a cloud computing system. And you will also know the concept of service oriented architecture, why service oriented architecture is important, okay, how service oriented architecture simplify the things, that also you will know at the end of this course. And the next is analyze the different workflows of the service oriented architecture. I'll tell you the basic of service oriented architecture and its workflow, how it is simplifying the system, why people are interested in service oriented architecture, why it is important in cloud computing context, that also we'll see. And the next one is ability to understand the security challenges and address challenges. Like whenever you go for any type of problem or any type of services, any type of architecture, you will face certain challenges. No architecture is perfect, right? So every architecture has some advantages, every architecture has some disadvantages as well. So like cloud computing, one of the challenge is called as security. I will not say disadvantage, I will say challenge is security. So how to overcome, if a person is interested in that area, suppose we decided that we will use the cloud computing architecture. So what are the security challenges you will face if you are moving to the cloud? And also you will know that understand the ways in which the cloud can be programmed and deployed, how to write the program in the cloud, and how you can deploy a particular website or a web service in cloud, that also we'll see. And also we'll know about the grid computing resource management, how we'll see the difference between grid and cloud computing. Then we'll see what is the difference in the resource management, how resource is managed in grid, how resource is managed in the cloud. Then we'll see the apply the grid computing in solving large scientific problems. So whatever the scientific problems are there, that I'll tell you later. So these scientific problems, how you can deal with that particular problem in grid as well as cloud, and what is the significant difference in solving such problems, we'll see in the grid and cloud computing perspective. So these are the 5 units in your course. First is focusing on the distributed system models and enabling technology. In order to know grid computing or cloud computing, or prior to grid computing, there is another computing that is called as cluster computing. So these 3 words, in order to know these particular words, what is the meaning of these words, the main prerequisites is called distributed system. So the first unit focuses on the distributed system models. What are the distributed system models are there, and what are the recent technologies associated with the distributed system, that we'll see in the unit 1. Then we'll go for the cloud computing platform. We'll see the different services, different platform, different delivery models, different architectures of cloud, and how people are designing such platforms. We will see in the second module or second unit. Third module focuses on the service-oriented architecture. You can say it is a supplement to the cloud computing architecture. Nowadays, whatever cloud computing platforms are there, these platforms are enabled because of the service-oriented architecture. So how service-oriented architecture is related to cloud computing, how it provides various advantages, that we will see in the unit number 3. Fourth unit focuses on the programming aspect and the various programming environment. We can say that programming problem solving environments, you can say. So these environments and what are the softwares required. Okay, how one person can switch to cloud with minimum effort, that we will see in the fourth module, and we'll see some of the programming aspect. In fact, I will tell you some of the demo, how to create something in the cloud computing. As the time progress in the first, after 10 class, I will give you a live demo so that you can also working with your computer system, so that you will get a highlight of cloud computing system. And the last unit focuses on the grid computing and resource management architecture. In fact, this unit 5, need to be discussed prior to the unit 2, 3, and 4. So we'll plan accordingly, because grid computing was developed first in compared to the cloud computing, because the timeline says that first one is your cluster computing, second is grid computing, third is cloud computing. So some of the grid computing concepts are used in the cloud computing. So before you go for the cloud computing system, you should be aware of the grid computing and its resource management. So this particular book you have to follow is suggested in your syllabus, and this is also a very good book. And that book is written by one of the very famous author, that is K. Wang and G.C. Fox and J.J. Dogra. Okay, so the book title is Distributed in Cloud Computing from Parallel Processing to the Internet of Things, that is IoT. And this book is also available in the internet. So no need to purchase this particular book if you don't have. So you can download this book from the internet as well. If you are not getting this book, you can drop a mail to me. I will share my email ID and mobile number, so that I will share this book with you. This is a very excellent book published by MK Publisher Elsevier and we are following 2012 editions. Okay. So with these prerequisites, let us start discuss the unit 1, the first lecture of unit 1. So I planned 6 lectures per unit. So I'll cover 6 lectures, around 6 lectures, or it may be a little bit slide 5 or 7 lectures like that. And I'll cover these 5 to 7 lectures per unit, so that by 30 or 35 classes we will complete the course, right? So unit 1 focuses on these 5 topics, right? As I already mentioned, unit 1 will see the distributed system models. Why we are learning these distributed system models? Because these distributed system models are required for the basic of cloud computing. In order to understand the basics of cloud computing, you require distributed system models. And cloud is enabled, or like cloud, there are so many technologies are there, those who are using distributed system. So I will highlight some of the enabling technology, and I will also tell you how to know that whether a particular technology is emerging or not, that technology is recent or not, or the technology will used in the industry or not. Because anything you want to do, you have to see in the industry perspective. If in industry perspective it is not useful, so no need to go through this particular topic, right? Because after the completion of this year, you will go to the industry to work, right? Many people will go to the higher studies as well, but whether you go for higher studies or industry, you have to always relying on the market. If your topic, if you whatever you are doing is it is not famous or not popular or not used in the industry, that is of no use. So in today's class, I will focus the first topic of this unit, that is called as scalable computing services over the internet. So as you are aware of this internet, no need to explain the word called internet, right? Every in a day-to-day life, we are using a service provider's internet, like Geo connection is there, Geo Mobile is there, or Vodafone, or Airtel. So many service providers are there. We are subscribing some package from that service provider so that we are able to access the internet. But the topic says that scalable computing. Try to understand the word called scalable. Scalable means you can expand, you can shrink, right? Scalable means I can expand a particular thing or I can shrink a particular thing, right? Anything I want to increase, anything I want to decrease based on my requirement is called as my scalable computing. Like, for example, let's say we have a big hall, big lecture hall. In the summer season, the temperature is very high. So what we need? We need AC for that particular room. But that ACs are required only in the summer season, not in the winter season. So what I request a particular AC provider. So please give me 5 ACs in rental basis. I will not purchase these 5 ACs. I require these 5 ACs for 5 ACs for my summer season. So once the summer season is over, there is no need of AC. So I'll return these ACs to the AC provider. So this is called as the concept of scalable. Scalable says that you can increase it, you can decrease it based upon your requirement. So this topic says that how the same thing, whatever I told you, the same thing you can achieve using the cloud computing services. We will see in the cloud computing, whatever services the cloud computing is providing, how you will do such kind of scalability concept in cloud computing, or which we call is a scalable computing services. So how these services will provided? These services will be provided through internet only, right? So first topic is focusing on this. The rest topics we will cover in the subsequent classes. So I am not going through these topics. I will discuss it in the later classes. Okay. Now let us see the first topic, that is distributed system model enabling technology, in which there is a subtopic called scalable computing services over the internet. So you know that till the birth of from the birth of computer system to today, right? Today we are using cloud computing, right? So for the time being, I will tell you everybody is using Gmail system, or your university has provided you an email ID, right? The email ID may be in something at the rate of srec or something sru.ac.in, right? Some email ID is provided to you. So as you know that this email ID is, or you go for the Gmail email ID, they are giving some spaces to you, right? Some space means this email ID is giving, let's say in the Gmail case, we are getting 15 GB. When you create a Gmail ID, they are giving 15 GB space to you, right? So you can get mails up to 15 GB. Once 15 GB is reached to you, that you have to subscribe to Gmail system, right? For example, you have a very old email ID, you have used that email ID from the last 20-30 years, something like that, and your all the whatever the emails are there, that is occupied this 15 GB, right? So after that, what you need to go for subscription. Suppose I need another 5 GB. For this 5 GB, this 5 GB is not free. I am going to pay for this 5 GB, and this is my free version, right? So for the time being, till the time I'll introduce what is cloud computing, I'll focus on this Gmail, because this Gmail is a service provided by Google Cloud. Google Cloud provides you a Gmail account, that is Google account, in which you can store the data up to 15 GB. Not only in emails, you may store some document, you can store some movie, you can store some software in the Google Drive. So up to at max you can go up to 15 GB. So over the past 60 years, if you see from the birth of a computer system and today's, like Gmail, that is a services, or you can say Facebook, you are using, and Twitter you are using, Instagram you are using, everything is treated as a platform, right? These platforms you are using to get some kind of services from the cloud. So if you see the last 60 years statistics, in 60 years, the platforms are rapidly changed and environment is also changed. As you are aware of that, earlier we had Windows XP operating system. Now we have Windows 7 system, then Windows 10 system is now available, right? So rapidly what happened, different kinds of development is going on, in which the platform and environment is rapidly changed. In what way it is changed? It is changed based upon the machine architecture. Earlier you have some processor is called as P4 processor. Now we have i3 processor or i5 processor or i7 processor. Some processors are coming like this. So these are the various machine architecture changing with respect to the time. Similarly, operating system we discussed, starting from, let's say, Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP. Okay, there are so many operating systems are there. Now we have Windows 10 operating system. Gradually, these operating system will again also change. If you see the next 5-year time span, the operating system will again also change. Network connectivity is also changed. The way the computers are connected, that is also changed. Or if you say wireless medium is changed, nowadays nobody is relying on the wired medium. Everybody is using wireless medium, like our mobile phone having hotspot. That hotspot we are using to connect one computer system with another computer system, or a computer system with our mobile phone. Similarly, the load on these architecture or load on the operating system is also changed. Earlier, many things are very, whatever the things we are using, different applications, if you write a program, the program is very large size, right? But nowadays, it is due to development of the technology, due to development of the platform and environment, the application workload is also changed, right? So next is that earlier we are concentrating on the centralized computer. Centralized computer means, you can say, for example, in a computer, in a particular institute, if you consider CSC department is having a head of the department. So if you want to get anything, if you want to issue a particular library book, or if you want to issue a computer system, or if you want to issue some accessories, so you have to take the permission of the CSC head of the department. So what you will do, for each and every service, you have to request to the CSC head of the department. CSC head of the department will provide you the services. So what happens? You are not relying on any other person, like you are not relying on any other faculty, right? You are always requesting the head of the department to get your job done. So what is the demerit of this problem? CSE HOD will be overloaded. If the class strength is, let's say, 200 people will approach to the head of the department for small works. So head of the department will be overloaded. So what is the solution? Instead of that, we will say that, for example, CSE department is having 4 years. In 4 years, each year is having 3 batches. So I will alert each batch to an individual faculty, right? So that the loads can be reduced. So that is the difference between a centralized system and a distributed system. In centralized computer system, what happened? The system is present in a particular location. Any request you want to make, you have to make to the centralized system. And it may happen that whenever you are requesting some service to the CSE HOD, other person has to wait. Similarly, whenever somebody is using the centralized computer system, other users has to wait, right? Until unless your work is completed in the centralized system, that centralized system, other person has to wait. Like, you know that there is something called a star topology in computer network. In star topology, what happened? There is a centralized node. Computers are connected to the centralized node, right? So anyone want to communicate with each other. For example, this computer want to communicate with this computer system. So what will happen? It will request the centralized node. Centralized node will request to this computer system. So there is no direct communication between these two. But what is the problem? If the centralized system is failed, then the entire network is collapsed, right? So that is the demerit of the centralized system. So now people are using something called as parallel system, or you can this called as a distributed system, or combined we call it a parallel distributed system. So in order to solve very computational problem, I will introduce one computational problem here to feel comfortable in the rest of the slide. You know, something is called as weather forecasting, right? You are able to know the temperature of Warrendale for the next 7 days or next 15 days, right? How will you know? Because of the weather forecasting. So this weather forecasting is a science and engineering problem, right? For these numerous of computer systems are running behind this particular project, right? They are collecting the historical data, last year data, last to last year data. They are collecting. By using this particular data, they are making some kind of analysis or some kind of prediction, so that they will say that whether there is a rain in Warangal tomorrow or not, right? So in order to solve the computational problem, right, like this weather forecasting or something like that, some other problems I will introduce later. So parallel distributed systems are much more efficient than the centralized system, because centralized system, everything you cannot request to the centralized system. But parallel system, the systems, the parallel and distributed system, the systems are not present in a centralized location, so we can achieve that work in a parallel distributed system. That's why in order to solve the computational problems, we are relying on the parallel distributed system, computing system. You are also aware of the supercomputer, right? Supercomputer is a centralized one, right? That is placed in a, it is a very big size and it is placed in a some location. Or if you go for a large data center, like I told you that Google Gmails we are getting, right? Whatever the Gmails you have, that Gmail is stored in Google data center. I will tell you the term data center later. Try to understand, data center is a centralized unit where the data is stored, right? So if you consider a supercomputer which is present in a particular location, or if you consider a large data center, they are giving you a high performance computing. High performance means they are able to execute a large computational problem and can give the highest performance, better performance, by applying the concept of parallelism. As you have studied in computer organization, parallelism says that two works can be executed simultaneously, or one or two or more works can be done simultaneously. So if you go for supercomputer and large data center, it is a high performance computing system, but these HPC system is no longer optimal. Your performance may be good, but it is no longer optimal. I will tell you a very simple example, a non-technical example, so that you will understand this sentence very clearly. For example, a student has written 55 pages in the cloud and grid computing subject. He has written in the end semester 55 pages, right? If you see these 55 pages, the student is very nicely written everything, the diagrams, everything, right? So his performance is good. Let's say his performance is out of 100, he got 92 marks, right? So you can say that his performance is good, but you cannot claim that he has given an optimal performance, because the things whatever explained in the 55 pages can be reduced to 30 pages, for example, right? I can reduce to 30 pages. Another student has written 30 pages and he secured a mark of, let's say, 90, let's say 90. So in this case, you can say this student has achieved high performance, but the performance is not optimal because he has wasted so many pages, right? But if you see, if you come to the cloud computing, cloud demands high throughput computing, not the high performance computing. Although high performance computing has a major role in cloud computing and grid computing as well, but cloud want to achieve high throughput computing more in comparison to the high performance computing. And as you know that computer system is having various generations, starting from the mainframe computer was developed in the year of around 1950 to 1970, and few mainframe computers name is IBM 360 and CDC 6400. So these five generation of the computer system, each generation is a period span of 10 to 20 years. And first generation, the mainframe computer was developed. Second generation is in the range of 1960 to 1980, where mini computers are used. In the mini computer examples are the DEC PDP-11 and Hex series was developed at that time. After that, there is a 1970 to 1990. Personal computers like desktop was developed, and 1980 to 2000 portable computers like laptop, tablet, PDS, whatever things that is portable, that was developed. So as you can see, out of these four generation, and after that there is another generation, that is 2000 to up to today's date, so many handheld devices are used. So each and every generation is around 10 to 20 years. So you cannot say that second generation will start only after the first generation. There may be a overlap between the first generation and second generation. For example, as you can see, 1960 to 1980 mini computer is popular. At the same time, 1970 to 1980 period personal computer is also there, right? Similarly, 1970 to 1999 personal computers are there. For 1980 onwards, portable computer was developed. So one generation is collide with another generation so that the changes people will feel and they will take the advantages of the current generation. So now I'll do one poll, right? So please answer my first question. So let me do the poll first. Okay, poll. So please answer this question. So let me stop the poll. What is the correct answer? Can anybody answer?
High
High
throughput
performance.
computing.
So maximum people have answered high performance computing. So what I told you that high performance computing is required for cloud computing, but cloud computing always
Availability.
for high throughput computing. The correct answer is high throughput computing. Although high performance computing is required in the case of cloud computing, but cloud want to achieve the high throughput, right? So answer is high throughput computing. Yes, the person who have answered high availability, the answer is also partially correct. I am not saying all the answers are wrong. High availability is also one of the advantages, but out of these 4%, the appropriate option is your high throughput computing, right? So cloud demands the high throughput computing. Throughput means I told you that this example and also in throughput, what we want to achieve? I want to achieve that how the performance of the student can be achieved in a better way. Or I can say that I will see per second how many works a computer system can do in cloud. That is called as throughput computing, right? So as you can see here, there is a one side you have a high throughput computing, another side you have HPC system, right? In HPC system, you may have homogeneous nodes. Try to understand this word that is called as homogeneous. Homogeneous indicate that if I have a two computer system, both computer system having same architecture, same operating system, same behavior, same operating system, everything is same. Their RAM, their hard disks, their way of communication, everything is same. Then I can claim that system is called as homogeneous system. But practically it is not possible to combine the systems that are homogeneous in nature. Suppose I will tell you, if you go to a particular lab of your institute, so you will see that there are 30-50 computer systems are there. All systems are having same configurations. So we can claim that that system is called as homogeneous system. But practically it is not possible. If I tell you, you build a system, distributed system having 20,000 same type of computer system, it is practically not possible. You may gather 20,000 computer system, but it is not practically possible that 20,000 systems are belongs to 20,000 computers are having same configuration. So that is called as homogeneous nodes. So HPC systems are generally achieved in the case of cluster. I will tell you the definition of cluster later, because cluster uses the homogeneous nodes, but grid and cloud uses the heterogeneous node. Try to understand, homogeneous means these computer systems are same, heterogeneous means these computer systems may not same, right? They may not be same, right? They may be different, right? So if you go for cluster system or something called as massively parallel processor, that is a topic that may be covered in the cluster or part, right? So the massively parallel cluster, they are nothing but a centralized control. That is not a distributed control. Centralized control means they are controlled by a single person, right? So in the other side, if you go for HTC system, HTC system is depending on the P2P network. P2P means peer-to-peer network. One computer is communicating with another computer system. Both computers are autonomous computer systems. Means one computer will fail, it will not affect the second computer system. So both HPC system and HTC system can be combined, that we call as computational or data grid. Computational data grid, for the time being, I'll tell you, if you visit some dam kind of thing, in that dam, electricity is generated. If you see, the poles are organized like a grid. Grid means like this is a grid. So there is a like, if you see the Excel sheet, let us take an Excel sheet, you will get these type of grid, right? So what it indicates, each interaction, there is a, in each interaction you will get a computer, right? Or in each interaction you will put a electric pole in the case of electric grid, right? Similarly, there is in grid computing something called as computational grid or something called as data grid, that can be achieved by the help of HTC system or HPC system. So by the help of these resources, what you can do, you can build cloud, you can build some services, that is Web 4.0. Web 2.0 is a technology that is used in the cloud computing. I'll discuss that is in the later part. And one of the popular technology nowadays, that is called as Internet of Things. That also you can achieve by the help of these combined power, right? Combined power of HPC as well as combined power of HTC. Now, if you go for HPC system is nothing but supercomputer, or you go for the data center, these systems can execute a scientific application, they can execute an engineering application, they can execute a computational application. But as the supercomputer is placed in a single location, assume that in some location, let's say in Warangal, some part, in some location one supercomputer is there, right? And there is a natural calamity. So what will happen? That supercomputer will be destroyed, right? That's why we want to replace the supercomputer with clusters. In clusters, what we are assuming, the things may not be present in a single location. They may be present in a different location, but one thing we have to ensure that they are homogeneous systems, right? Similarly, HTC system, if you go that parallel P2P network, that is I told you, or peer-to-peer network or cloud computing, or whatever the web services you are using, or whatever the web browser you are using, by using a web browser, you are getting a web service. You are going for Facebook. How you are viewing your Facebook? Through a web browser. So it can be treated as a web service. So they are called as a HTC system. But if you merge the concept of clustering, that is the cluster and P2P network, then you can build a particular system that is called as computational grid and data grid. There is a difference between the computational grid and data grid. I will cover in the unit 5 what is the difference. For the time being, you just assume that is having a big power, big computation power. Suppose I will give you a program to execute in a computer, and the program size is, let's say, 2 GB. So it is practically not possible to run a 2 GB program in your computer system. So what is the solution? So we will go for a computational grid, or we will go for a cluster system, or we will go for a cloud computing system in order to execute that program, because it is not practically possible with a single computer system. And other differences are called HPC systems are generally in the unit is gigaflops in 1990. Now we are getting in more high speed. In 2010 we got petaflops, teraflops is there. There are so many flops are there. So that is the unit used in the HPC system. So in HPC system you can also get top 500 most powerful computer. So I request you, after the end of this lecture, as an assignment, you please visit that website, that is top500.org. In this website, you will get the details of the supercomputer. What are the supercomputers that are very famous and that is in the best 10 position, that information you can get from top500.org. And this website is also updated periodically. Okay, so but if you go for HTC system is depending on the high flux computing. We says that number of tasks completed per unit. How many tasks you can complete with a time unit. Here time unit means, you may assume that time unit is a second, time unit may be a let's say minute, time unit may be a day, time unit may be a year. depending upon your application, you have to check how many works you have processed, right? HTC systems are also addressed various cost issues. Suppose I want to execute something in the cloud, so how much cost I have to pay, and what is the energy consumed, how much energy is consumed, what is the power required, how much power is required, and what are the security issues, and what is the reliability on a particular system that you can determine in HTC system. So if you go for there are three new computing paradigms are there that we will discuss in the time span. One paradigm is called as a service-oriented architecture, which makes cloud computing popular. Another technology that is called as Web 2.0, which enables the cloud computing to provide various services in addition to your service-oriented architecture. And now you have a popular technology called IoT. IoT also require your cloud computing and grid computing concept, right? As you know that in IoT system, we are using various kind of sensors. You are using GPS system, global positioning system. In mobile also, you have a GPS and RFID system to collect the data, right? So these are the three paradigms we'll discuss in this particular course, right? So if you see the birth of internet in 1969, one of the ARPANET scientists, his name is Leonard Klenick, he declared one statement. The statement says that as of now, computer networks are still in their infancy, but as they grow up and become sophisticated, we will probably see the spread of computer utilities, which like present electricity and telephone utilities will service the individual homes and offices across the country. Like you know that you are getting a electricity bill, or you are getting a phone bill, or you are subscribing a prepaid connection, or you are subscribing a postpaid connection. So based upon your usage of electricity, you are paying. In a particular month, in the summer month, you have two ACs, so you have switched on two AC for maximum time, so your bill is more. But in winter season, you are not requiring AC, your electricity bill is less. So what this scientist told, that after some time what will happen is, he predicted in 1969, he predicted this statement in 1969. He told that after 50 years, or after let's say 40 or 50 years, so computer will also be treated as an utility. Computer, whatever things computer can provide, that can be treated as an utility. So if you are using that utility, you are going to pay. Like I told you, if you are exceeding 15 GB, then you are going to pay for the Gmail. If you are not exceeding that 15 GB, then that is fair. That is you need not pay anything. Like you know, in Delhi also, up to 100 units of electricity, that is free, right? After 100 unit, if you are consuming that, you have to pay for it. Similar kind of things he predicted in 1969. In 1984, one scientist, John Gase, he told that the network is nothing but the computer. Earlier, the definition of computer is nothing but a electronic device, and it is having this thing, that thing, input thing, processing power, and output, can produce the output, something like that. But 1984, the definition of computer is now changed to the network is the computer. In 2008, another scientist, David Peterson, told that now the data center, like Google is having various data center, or any service provider is having data center, that now the data center is the computer. But after the time span, Professor Rajkumar Bhuiya, who is a very famous author, he's Indian, but he is now at University of Melbourne, Australia. He told that cloud is now the computer system. So if anybody will ask you what is a computer, nowadays you can say cloud is a computer. So distributed computing is always been a competitor of the centralized system. It is the opposite of the centralized system. Centralized system means there is a centralized unit that you have to process, but distributed system, the things are not present in a single location. If you go for the centralized system, if centralized system is there, you assume that there is a centralized computer is there, right? In order to do your work, you have to be relying on that particular computer system. So whatever processor is there in the computer system, whatever memory is there in the computer system, whatever storage is there in the computer system, that is fully shared among the user. If 5 users using the same computer system, they are sharing the processor, memory as well as storage. Such systems are called as tightly coupled system. Why it is called tightly coupled system? If this system will collapse, then what will happen? The entire system will be collapsed. That's why they are tightly coupled. Right. The meaning of tightly coupled says that as they are using the same memory, same storage, same processor, if something happens, some problem happens to that system, the entire system will be collapsed. As I mentioned, the example of the centralized system is your data center and supercomputer. But if you come to the parallel computing system, generally parallel computing system is also a tightly coupled system in which you have a centralized shared memory. Or a parallel computing system may be a loosely coupled system also. In a loosely coupled system, computer systems are not present in a single location. So what will happen if if a computer will collapse, the other computer is still active. So such systems are called as loosely coupled system. So in that system, what happened? Whatever memory is there here in this computer system, that is called its own local memory. And whatever memory is available here, that is called your own local memory. So the local memory will be destroyed, but this local memory will not be destroyed. Moreover, if they are using a shared memory, the both computers are using the shared memory, the same memory, okay, in somewhere, so that shared memory is not destroyed. But in the tightly coupled system, that is destroyed. Then in the parallel computing system also you will see the inter-processor communication. It may happen that a single computer system is having multiple processor. Like i3 computer, if you are using i3 processor, i3 is having two core, core 1 and core 2. So there may be a communication between these two core as well, which you can say inter-core communication. Similarly, it may happen between two processors. Similarly, earlier we have a parallel computers in which we are writing some program which we call as a parallel program, and in order to get this job done, we are saying it is a parallel programming. So it is a life period. We want to write a parallel program in a computer which enable us to write the parallel programming. Now, coming to the distributed computing also, you have a distributed system. If you want to write a program, that is called as a distributed program, and overall we call it by a distributed programming. So what happened? I told you in distributed system, there is a multiple autonomous system. These systems are not dependent. So they have their own private memory, right? But in order to exchange the information, what mechanism they are using? They are using one mechanism that is called as message passing. They will pass the message among the computer system in order to inform, if you want to inform some information. So now if you go for the cloud computing system, cloud computing is a type of parallel as well as a distributed system. It is called as parallel and distributed system. So if you concentrate on internet of cloud of resources, in cloud computing we are getting the resources in by using our internet connection. So this system, cloud computing system, may be centralized, it may be distributed as well. Because in cloud computing system, we are using data centers as well. As data centers are present in a single location, we can claim the system as a centralized system. But whatever data is there in the centralized system, that may be available in other data center as well, which makes enable it is a distributed system. So cloud, you are getting the virtualized resources, but in the if you go for the provider end, that resources is called as physical resources. By the help of your computer system, you can get the services. Like our computer system, we are accessing the Gmail, that is called as your virtualized resources. That Gmail is a virtualized one, but that is stored in a physical computer system, right? So cloud computing is also called as your utility computing or also called as your service computing. But nowadays the community prefer various new terms in order to call the cloud computing, like many people called as a concurrent computing, and many people are saying concurrent programming is possible in the cloud computing. So you can say is cloud computing is a combination of parallel and distributed computing, which is also called as a utility service or service computing or concurrent computing or programming. Now in October 2010, if you see, I told you to visit the top500.org website. In October 2010, if you see, the highest performing cluster machine, it means the world's best supercomputer is called as Tihane 1A system. The name of the system is called Tihane 1A. That computer system is having 86,016 CPU cores. Like I told you, i3 processor having 2 core, but here it is having 86,016 cores. And G1,260 cores are there. So imagine what is the power of a supercomputer and what is the power of a single computer system. So what are the design objectives of this distributed system? If you are focusing on the distributed system, you have to focus on the following design objective. You have to see that efficiency of a system is improved. Efficiency means whatever system you are using, that must be utilized properly. Then there is a dependability. Dependability means one system should not be dependent on other. Okay. system should assure that it will execute the work even if there is a failure. If my computer is damaged or my computer is crashed, it will not affect my Gmail. So that is, even if there is a failure condition is there, my emails will be not be destroyed. That is called as a quality of service. And we can adopt various programming models. That programming models is nothing but that you have to adopt a many programming models in which you will get a billion of job requests you can complete within a fraction of second. You have a billion of jobs, you want to execute that in a cloud computing system, and it should be completed within a time frame. So for that we have two systems. People are generally using in the science and engineering problems. People are using HPC, but as now everything is business oriented, now people are relying on HTC system. So if you go for the Moore's law, that Moore's law says that processor speed doubles in every 18 months, right? Moore's law says that the processor speed, whatever processor speeds you have, after 18 months, the processor speed will increase by 2. Similarly, Gilder's law says that the network bandwidth also doubled in each year. Okay, network bandwidth, whatever available to in this year, it will be doubled in the next year. But these statistics may not be true in the next couple of years, because it may happen that one processor may be doubled in a very fraction of, instead of it is 18 months, it may be less or it may be more. So in order to achieve the parallel power, what we need to go for parallelism. Parallelism says that multiple works you can execute at the same time. For example, initially you have bit level. Bit level means 0 bit or 1. Now we are 4-bit system, 8-bit system, 16-bit system. Now we are using these to compute these 2-bit system, the 32-bit to 64-bit system. Very soon we will get the computer system with 128-bit. After that, there is a instruction level parallelism is there. Instruction level parallelism says that you can execute multiple instructions at the same time. That means if there is an instruction called C is equal to A plus B, another instruction is, let's say, C minus A is equal to D. Such type of multiple instruction you can execute simultaneously if they are parallel. They can be computed parallel. But in this case, as you can see, unless you will get the value of C, you cannot calculate the second statement. After that, there is a VLIW architecture, that is very long instruction word architecture is there. Then there is a data level parallelism is there. Then finally we have a task level parallelism, and finally now we have job level parallelism. Task is a small thing, job is a very big thing. So like that, the invention of degree of parallelism has happened. So these are the applications you can go with respect to scientific application, engineering application, business application. So these are various applications, like I told you, weather forecasting. Okay, you can also go for earthquake prediction. These are the various applications that is used in a HPC system or STC system. So this is the complete picture of what we discussed now. There are various computing, starting from the web services to the cloud computing, and it is possible by the help of HPC system and HTC system. And everything is called as ubiquitous. Ubiquitous, it indicates that it is anywhere you can access your email by using your mobile phone, by using your tablet, by using your PDA, by using your desktop, by using your laptop, right? So these are the various that provides this ubiquitous nature provides the reliability and scalability in the system. So next, I will tell you about this cycle. So, do you have any class at 12? Can anybody respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will finish in next 3-4 minutes. Please bear with me. Okay. So there is a cycle that is called as hype cycle, right? That is very popular. So this hype cycle, I am giving very old statistics, 2010. So after the end of this lecture, you can visit in Google, you can write Gartner hype cycle. You please note down, you have to search Gartner hype cycle, Gartner, G-A-R-T-E-N-E-R, Gartner hype cycle. What this hype cycle will tell you, this hype cycle will tell you what are the new technologies in the market perspective and whether the technology will sustain in the market or not. For example, if you see here, when a technology is new in the market, it is present in the technological trigger. So this axis represent the time and this axis represent the expectation, right? So whenever a new technology is coming into the market, it is present in the technology trigger. Gradually the technology will go to the peak level, then it will go to the level of disillusionment, then it will go to the slope and enlightenment. After that, it will go to the plateau. Means that is the technology is not that much popular. So as you can see, there are various dots are used here. What it indicates? White dot indicates the technology will sustain for less than 2 years. This dot indicates the technology will sustain for 2 to 5 years. This dot indicates is 5 to 10 years, and if a triangle is there, yellow color triangle is there, that is more than 10 years. As you can see here, cloud computing is now present in this position in 2010 statistics. In the current statistics, public cloud computing is there. Okay, if you see that technology will sustain up to 2 to 5 years, right? Means after 2 to 5 years, the cloud computing is in the main adoption stage. People are using cloud computing as predicted in 2010. But if you see in the public cloud computing in the current in 2020 Gartner Hype Cycle, you will get cloud computing will sustain the market for next 5 to 10 years as well, right? So there are some technologies are there, they cannot reach to the peak level and they will become obsolete. For example, if you see here, some technology is written broadband over power lines. So this is obsolete before reaching the plateau part. Means before reaching the dead state, it is now not that much popular. So I request you to visit the Gartner Hype Cycle and download the latest Gartner Hype Cycle. So these are the two systems that IoT was introduced in '99 by at MIT, right? And in IoT says that you can add the day-to-day objects or day-to-day tools and devices and computer into a single connection. You can switch off your computer system by sitting in your institute. That is the benefits of Internet of Things. And Internet of Things is very popular because nowadays people are moving to IPv6 protocol, because whatever IP address we are using, that is IPv4, that is 32-bit. But if you go for IPv6 protocol, it is nothing but 2 to the power 128 IP address you can generate. So each and every object can be given as a IP address so that it can be monitored. And it also provides 3 types of services, that is called human to human services, human to a particular thing, let's say human to a refrigerator, human to AC, or a things to things type of patterns can be exist in the case of Internet of Things. The last part of today's talk is the cyber physical system. Cyber physical system explore one of the popular concept of artificial intelligence, that is called virtual reality or augmented reality. So there is a helmet type of things that will be given to you if you see that if you wear that helmet. If you wear that helmet, then you can view some videos, and that videos will feel you like that you are running in a particular environment. You will not see that you are present in a particular class like you are seeing the 3D movies, right? That is the same thing as a virtual reality. So in which you are interacting with the computational processes with the physical worlds. Like IoT focus on human to human or human to thing, and thing to human, thing to thing. But cyber physical system says that any computational resources will be connected to the physical system. And it is combining the heterogeneous system. It is completely asynchronous, and physical systems also, which makes the concurrent and information dense, right? So it also merges 3 type of C technology, that is computation. One can compute something, one can communicate from one device to another device, and you can control the things as well. So these are the popular things that is there, that is related to the distributed system. So in the next class, in the next lecture, I will tell about the technology of the network. Told you one is go through the top 5 words and list out the 10 best supercomputer expert tools. Second is you have to download the latest Gartner cycle, and you have to locate the public cloud computing. So if you have any question, you can ask, but before that, I will make another poll. How to do another poll? Okay.
Sir,
Okay. So this is the second poll. Any question you can ask.
sir, can you keep the application slide once again, sir?
Application slide. Okay. These applications I'll tell you with the time span. That's why I've skipped it. Yes, tell me. So there is a earthquake prediction is also there. You can able to know that whether earthquake is there in a particular location, or tentative date of a particular earthquake, for which there are high computation and high performance systems are required, or a cluster is required, or supercomputer power is required. That is application of science engineering application. Similarly, business perspective, industry perspective also, or also you can say mission critical applications as well. In all the applications we are using HPC as well as SC. Any other question you can ask? We have another 1 minute. I hope you answered the polls, right? So I am stopping the polls. So who told the cloud is a computer? What is the answer? Correct answer? Please answer very quickly.
Rajkumar Bhuiya.
Yes. I'm ending the poll. So Professor Rajkumar Bhuiya, University of Melbourne, Australia, is a Indian, right? He studied in India, right? He is a very famous author in the cloud computing. He told that the cloud is the computer, right? So I hope you understood whatever I want to cover in today's